Welcome, welcome, welcome. Monica Lickman, she stated that he grooms her when she was in the church. I think she was, oh my God, that's horrible. 10 years old. And no one saw this. No one's. Nina Shandro, you guessed who I was referring to. uh, I was horrified by that. Well, we'll say his name, Joel Osteen. When he had this huge church in Texas. They had those horrific floods, and people needed a place to stay. And at first, he wouldn't let them stay there because he didn't want his church dirtied up. And then he was shamed into it, and he allowed them to use his church. And he's worth about 40 or 50 million. Any televangelist that's worth 40, 50 million, run away from him. Run away. Run the other way. Because he's clearly not about the Lord. He's not about preaching. He's about dead presidents on green pieces of paper. That's what he's all about, Dr. Great Living, as an ex-prosecutor, I don't believe she killed herself, and I don't trust the evidence from North Carolina. They're known for their corruption, as in South Carolina. Dr. Great Living, look, if the family feels that way, they should hire a private investigator. They should have they can't have a second autopsy done now because, from what I understand, Mica was cremated.
Right.
But it seems like Robeson County they were not involved in this case vis-a-vis John Paul Miller. So they didn't have an axe to grind in that way. You're telling me that they're a corrupt police department? I don't know of that, but what reason would they have to take a position in this case? Look, I know there's conspiracy theorists in this case. The father said that she had a bruise on her hand. If they were all concerned about that, then they should have absolutely had a second autopsy if they didn't trust the medical examiner. But everyone would have to be in cahoots. The medical examiner, the police department. I don't know if a prosecutor went to the scene, all the police, the investigators. They would all have to be in cahoots in order for this to be a staged crime scene and a murder that was staged to look like a suicide. It's not easy to make a suicide, to make a murder look like a suicide. It's not easy at all. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, there's a lot of suspicion on the Reverend, but on the day that Mica took her own life, there was the 911 call she made. She had bought the gun. They had the gun to purchase. She had the firearm with her when they found her body. They found the carrying case. I think also there was a person who heard her crying and then heard like a shot. Now, if the report was that the fisherman or the person who was in the park heard some crying but heard two voices, well, then it might be a different story. But at this point, all things point to poor Mica taking her own life. And I think part of the disbelief and wanting him, the Reverend, to be arrested is because, he's really not everybody's favorite person at this point. As more and more we reveal about what his life was like and what kind of person he was. But as a police and as a prosecutor, you have to go with not what you think, but what you can actually prove in a court of law. And therefore, it's just not there. That kind of evidence is wanting. So until you have it, nobody's moving forward with a death investigation, a homicide investigation. But at this point, it appears to everyone, you and I especially, and Phil, that it's a tragic, situation where Mica took her own life. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not a conspiracy person. I think that probably that there was no conspiracy here whatsoever, that what looks like the most basic common sense kind of scenario that we imagined happened actually did happen. And but that never ever shuts out completely perhaps a homicide investigation if there's ever any evidence that is uncovered that would place the Reverend at that location at the same time as his wife. I don't think it's there, but if it ever is uncovered, then he could possibly be in charge in the future, because homicide never has a statute of limitations.
Dr. Great Living, people should realize there is no regulation of churches. Anyone can say they are preachers and open a church. That is why you need to go to affiliated churches like Methodist, Baptist, etc. Dr. Great Living, you know something, it is amazing that there is no, as you say, regulation of pastors that just slap, they slap a shingle outside their building and they're the Reverend so-and-so, and then they start preaching. And the commonality of all of that makes it so profitable is that they don't pay taxes. Whoever made that rule, that must go back to the Middle Ages, because here we are all busting our ass paying taxes, and then religious institutions don't pay any. And they're not only on what they collect, but some of them own big businesses, and they're making a fortune on their businesses and not paying any taxes on their businesses. I think that is wrong, and I think it allows for all of this kind of corruption that you're seeing.